The McMinnville UFO photographs were taken on a farm near McMinnville, Oregon, United States, in 1950. The photos were reprinted in Life magazine and in newspapers across the nation, and are often considered to be among the most famous ever taken of a UFO. UFO skeptics believe that the photos are a hoax, but many ufologists continue to argue that the photos are genuine and show an unidentified flying object in the sky. In 1975, the negatives were found in the files of the News Register by Bruce Maccabee, an optical physicist for the U.S. Navy and a ufologist. After completing his own study of the photos, Maccabee assured that the original negatives were finally returned to the Trents. Maccabee analyzed the photos and concluded that the photographs were not hoaxed and showed a real physical object in the sky above the Trent farm. Much of his analysis is based on densiometric measurements, similar to the photometric analysis done by Hartmann. Maccabee argued that the brightness of the object's underside suggested it was at some distance from the camera, not a smaller object close to it. Maccabee also analyzed the position of various objects in the image, as well as an image prepared by Hartmann when he visited the site in June of 1967. Based on this, Maccabee argued that the line of sight of the two images intersected some distance behind the power lines seen in the photos, provided further evidence in his opinion that it was not a small model suspended from the lines. Maccabee stated that his analysis of the object did not find any evidence of a thread or string suspending it from the power lines. The McMinnville UFO photographs remained among the best publicized in UFO history. Skeptics continue to explain the two photographs as being hoaxes and/or fakes. Ufologists continue to argue that the Trent photos are credible evidence that UFOs are real, a physical phenomenon. Evelyn Trent died in 1997, and Paul Trent in 1998. Both insisted until the end of their lives that the sighting and the photos were genuine. The interest surrounding the Trent UFO photos led to an annual UFO festival being established in McMinnville. It's now the largest such gathering in the Pacific Northwest and is the second largest UFO festival in the nation after the one held in Roswell, New Mexico. The same year that Iran was chasing mysterious lights across the sky, the Canary Islands were having their own strange encounter. At 9:27 p.m. on June 22nd, Navy personnel reportedly noticed a strange light traveling along the horizon that later split into two distinct objects. However, even this weird little tell has nothing compared to the reports on the ground. The residents of one street in La Rosa, Gran Canaria, reported seeing a gigantic translucent blue sphere hovering just above the ground. Roughly 30 meters in diameter, the sphere supposedly contained two humanoid creatures, vague shadows that could be seen against the stars. According to one witness, things then got even crazier, with the sphere expanding to enormous dimensions before vanishing off into the night sky. In the intervening years, several explanations have been put forward, ranging from meteor effects to a missile test. Yet to this day, people continue to swear they saw this strange orb and the even stranger creatures inside it. The Lubbock Lights were an unusual formation of lights seen over the city of Lubbock, Texas in August and September 1951. The Lubbock Lights incident received national publicity in the United States as a genuine UFO sighting. The Lubbock Lights were investigated by the U.S. Air Force in 1951. The Air Force initially believed the lights were caused by a type of bird called a plover, eventually concluded that the lights weren't birds, but they weren't spaceships. The Lubbock Lights have been positively identified as a very commonplace and easily explainable natural phenomenon. However, to maintain the anonymity of the scientists who had provided the explanation, the Air Force refrained from providing any details regarding their explanation for the lights. The first publicized sighting of the lights occurred on August 25, 1951, at around 9 p.m. Three professors from Texas Technological College, now Texas Tech University, located in Lubbock, were sitting in the backyard of one of the professors' homes when they observed the lights fly overhead. A total of 20 to 30 lights, as bright as stars but larger in size, flew over the yard in a matter of seconds. The professors immediately ruled out meteors as a possible cause of the sightings, and as they discussed their sightings, a second, similar group of lights flew overhead. The three professors, Dr. A.G. Oberg, chemical engineer, Dr. W.L. Ducker, a department head and petroleum engineer, and Dr. W.I. Robinson, a geologist, reported their sightings to the local newspaper, the Lubbock Avalanche Journal. Following the newspaper's article, three women in Lubbock reported that they had observed particular flashing lights in the sky on the same night of the professor's sightings. Dr. Carl Heminger, a professor of German at Texas Tech, also reported seeing the objects, as did the head of the college's journalism department. The three professors became determined to view the objects again and perhaps discover their identity. On September 5, 1951, all three men, along with two other professors from Texas Tech, were sitting in Dr. Robertson's front yard when the lights flew overhead. According to Dr. Grayson Mead, the lights appeared to be about the size of a dinner plate, and they were greenish blue, slightly fluorescent in color. They were smaller than the full moon at the horizon. There were about a dozen to 15 of these lights. They were obviously circular. It gave all of us an extreme eerie feeling. Mead claimed that the lights could not have been birds, but he also stated that they went over so fast that we wished we could have had a better look. The professors observed one formation of lights flying above a thin cloud of about 2,000 feet. This allowed them to calculate that the lights were traveling at over 600 miles per hour. The photo was taken well before drones existed and remains one of the most mysterious and top UFO encounters of all time. The 1952 Washington, D.C. UFO incident, also known as the Washington National Airport sightings, or the invasion of Washington, was a series of unidentified flying object reports from July 12th to July 29th in 1952 over Washington, D.C. UFOs flew over and around the White House and Capitol. The most publicized sightings took place on consecutive weekends, July 19th through 20th and July 26th through 27th. UFO historian Curtis Peebles called the incident the climax of the 1952 UFO flap. Never before or after did Project Blue Book and the Air Force undergo such a tidal wave of UFO reports. At 11:40 p.m. on Saturday, July 19th of 1952, Edward Nugent, an air traffic controller at Washington National Airport, which is today Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport, spotted 7 objects on his radar. The objects were located 15 miles south-southwest of the city. No known aircraft were in the area, and the objects were not following any established flight paths. Nugent's superior, Harry Barnes, a senior air traffic controller at the airport, watched the objects on Nugent's radar scope. He later wrote, "We knew immediately that a very strange situation existed. Their movements were completely radical compared to those of ordinary aircraft." Barnes had 2 controllers check Nugent's radar. They found that it was working normally. Barnes then called National Airport's radar-equipped control tower. The controllers there, Howard Coughlin and Joe Zacco, said they also had unidentified blips on their radar screen, and that they had seen a bright light hovering in the sky. It took off, zooming away at incredible speed. Coughlin told Zacco, "Did you see that? What the hell was that?" At this point, other objects appeared in all sectors of the radar scope when they moved over the White House and the United States Capitol. Barnes called Andrews Air Force Base, located 10 miles from National Airport. Although Andrews reported that they had no unusual objects on their radar, an airman soon called the base's control tower to report the sighting of a strange object. Airman William Brady, who was in the tower, then saw an object which appeared to be like an orange ball of fire. It was unlike anything I had seen before. As Brady tried to alert the other personnel in the tower, the strange object took off at an unbelievable speed. On one of the National Airport's runways, S.C. Pierman, a Capital Airlines pilot, was waiting in the cockpit of his DC-4 for permission to take off. After spotting what he believed to be a meteor, he was told that the control tower's radar had detected unknown objects closing in on his position. Pierman observed 6 objects, white, tailless, fast-moving lights, over a 14-minute period. Pierman was in radio contact with Barnes during his sighting, and Barnes later related that each sighting coincided with a pip we could see near his plane. When he reported that the light streaked off at high speed, it disappeared on our scope. At Andrews Air Force Base, meanwhile, the control tower personnel were tracking on radar what some thought to be unknown objects, and others suspected might be simply stars or meteors. However, Staff Sergeant Charles Davenport observed an orange-red light in the south. The light would appear to stand still, then make an abrupt change in direction and altitude, and this happened several times. At one point, both radar centers at National Airport and the radar at Andrews Air Force Base were tracking an object hovering over a radio beacon. The object vanished in all 3 radar centers at the same time. At 3 a.m., shortly before 2 United States Air Force F-94 Starfire jet fighters from Newcastle Air Force Base in Delaware arrived over Washington, all of the objects vanished from the radar at National Airport. However, when the jets ran low on fuel and left, the objects returned, which convinced Barnes that the UFOs were monitoring radio traffic and behaving accordingly. The objects were last detected by radar at 5:30 a.m. UFOs flying over our nation's capital is, of course, very disturbing and makes this sighting one of the top UFO encounters of all time. The modern history of Area 51 as a place for UFOs and extraterrestrial activity began in the 1980s. Bob Lazar claimed in 1989 that he had worked at Area 51's Sector 4, said to be located underground inside the Papoose Range near Papoose Lake. He claimed that he was contracted to work with alien spacecraft that the government had in its possession. Similarly, in 1996, a documentary, Dreamland, directed by Bruce Burgess, included an interview with a 71-year-old mechanical engineer who claimed to be a former employee of Area 51 during the 50s. His claims include that he had worked on a flying disc simulator, which had been based on a disc originating from a crashed extraterrestrial craft and was used to train pilots. He also claimed to have worked with an extraterrestrial being named J-Rod and described as a telepathic translator.
I've seen a strange object I've never seen in my life over the Pascagoula River. It was just sitting up there like it was in a still spot. It wasn't moving, but it had the weirdest lights around it. It was round, kind of egg-shaped, blue and white, silver lights around it, and it had a silver glow around it. The middle of the craft looking thing was, to me, looked like it was clear plastic. It had a piece of plastic somewhere, like clear plastic, like you could see through it, even though it was nighttime.
Mm-hmm.
But I seen that, and I kept saying to myself, Jesus Christ, what is that? So, I witnessed probably 5 or 10 minutes while the mechanic was setting his tools up, and it had his lights and things, floodlights, because he was going to be under the crane, around the crane, and really up in the crane. I was just as stooly. You know, you just don't see something like that every day, but I said, you know, can't be a helicopter, can't be a jet or nothing. It's got to be a UFO, but I've never seen nothing like that. It was.
Describe exactly what it looked like.
Have you ever seen a welder at nighttime, welding art at night? They're welding steel at night from a distance. It puts out like blue, white rays, you know, silver rays. And that was a little bit like that because it had a lot of rays glowing around it. But never seen nothing like that in the sky before. And it wasn't even moving, it was just sitting up there.
From your vantage point, could you see Charlie and Calvin over there, under it or around it?
No. Calvin and Charlie was the other side. That would be the west bank, well, on the east bank. And they would be like diagonally across. There was a bridge there, and they had to go over the bridge to get to where they were going fishing. They wasn't that far away, but they were diagonally across, like, I don't know. Well, I witnessed the UFO that picked them up, you know. But I told the crane operator what I'd seen. He just kind of laughed it off. So, no, yeah, right. Back in them days, 1973, most of us locals, man, we didn't believe in UFOs or Loch Ness Monster or a Bigfoot, nothing like that. So he laughed it off, and the next day I worked my day job at the shipyard. It had already got out on the news somehow or another, or the local people spreading it around. And I told them I'd seen something, and yeah, right. He put on their leg. Come on, Louis. So I said, well, maybe I'll just stay out of it. You know, a lot of people thinking he was hallucinating because maybe he'd hit the bottle a little bit too much or something. And but no, I actually thought of that, but I just kept my mouth shut, just stayed out of it. And I told my family, my friends, my deer hunter buddies and all that.
Yeah. So it wasn't a secret that you kept to yourself. People you knew you had seen
yeah,
it.
my whole
It just
family,
wasn't in
friends.
the newspapers.
But I know Charlie. Charlie on the job was a good hard worker. But I don't think he would tell a lie like that. I think it really happened.
Well, while I was attending Northrop Aeronautical Institute and working for Douglas Aircraft in El Segundo, California, I had heard about George Adamski, and one of the Sunday newspapers, he had his story and his pictures of contacts, plus pictures of his ships. Well, I had, by that time, seen so many during the day and the night that I felt I'd like to go up and meet this gentleman. On the weekend, he would entertain people who would come to see him, military people, engineers, scientists, people from all walks of life. He had taken some beautiful pictures of the scout craft as well as the carrier ships. I went up to see him. He had a 6-inch telescope that he used to take the pictures of the flying saucers. And in using that scope, when I finished, I was just about to take my eye off the eyepiece when there was a blue-white streak that went by, and I jerked my head up to see if I could see it, and I didn't. And I looked at his 15-inch telescope dome, which was a couple of 100 yards from his house. And there was a big flare-up blue-white light, and then it kind of closed back down. No noise. First I thought it was an explosion, but it was a little slower than that. And there was an elliptical flying saucer. It looked to me like it was hovering above the ground. So I heard it increase its frequency, and it got brighter and brighter, and it was really pretty hard to look at. And it shot straight up until it looked like one of the stars. If you've ever been to Mount Palomar at night on a dark night, boy, they're big and bright. And it stopped for an instant, and then it shot over the horizon over San Diego.
During the Second World War, they were called Foo Fighters, and in 1946, as they flew over Scandinavia, they were known as ghost rockets. It wasn't until Boise, Idaho businessman Kenneth Arnold saw them near Mount Rainier, Washington, that they became flying saucers. Although the official investigation wouldn't be launched for another 6 months, the Arnold sighting was the first one to receive major coverage in the United States. Army Air Force's investigations, working out of the 4th Air Force Headquarters, became deeply involved in the Arnold sighting. Arnold made his sighting of the strange objects flying one behind the other at about 9,500 feet at a speed he estimated to be more than 1,500 miles an hour. This was something that clearly wasn't made in secret projects hidden in the mountains of New Mexico, and it wasn't something that was made by the Soviet Union as they began to press for world domination. This was something strange that had no ready explanation other than it was strange and almost impossible to believe. When Arnold landed later in the afternoon on June 24th in Yakima, Washington, he told the assembled reporters what he had seen. In the course of describing the objects, he said they moved with a motion like that of saucers skipping across the water. The shape, however, according to drawings that Arnold completed for the Army, showed objects that were hill-shaped with a blunt nose. In later drawings, Arnold elaborated, showing objects that were crescent-shaped with a scalloped trailing edge and even a clear canopy over the cockpit. Later, Arnold would provide the military with a written description of the events in a document that was originally classified, but that has long since been released. Arnold wrote,
"On June 24th, I had finished my work, and about 2 o'clock I took off for Chehalis, Washington Airport with the intention of going to Yakima, Washington. I flew directly toward Mount Rainier after reaching an altitude of about 9,500 feet. which is the approximate elevation of the high plateau from which Mount Rainier rises. There was a DC-4 to the left and to the rear of me, approximately 15 miles distance, and I should judge a 14,000-foot elevation. I hadn't flown more than 2 or 3 minutes on my course when a bright flash reflected on my airplane. It startled me, as I thought I was too close to some other aircraft. I looked every place in the sky and couldn't find where the reflection had come from until I looked to the left and the north of Mount Rainier, where I observed a chain of 9 peculiar-looking aircraft flying from north to the south at approximately 9,500-foot elevation and going, seemingly, in a definite direction of about 170 degrees. The objects, were approaching Mount Rainier very rapidly, and I merely assumed they were jet planes. Anyhow, I discovered that this was where the reflection had come from, as 2 or 3 of them every few seconds would dip or change their course slightly, just enough for the sun to strike them at an angle that reflected brightly on my plane. I thought it was very peculiar that I couldn't their tails, but assumed they were some type of jet plane. I was determined to clock their speed, as I had 2 definite points I could clock them by. I watched these objects with great interest, as I had never before observed airplanes flying so close to the mountaintops. I would estimate their elevation could have varied 1,000 feet one way or another, up or down. They flew like many times I have observed geese to fly in a rather diagonal chain-like line, as if they were linked together. Their speed at the time did not impress me particularly, because I knew that our Army and Air Forces had planes that went very fast. A number of newsmen and experts suggested that I might have been seeing reflections, or even a mirage. This I know to be absolutely false, as I observed these objects not only through the glass of my airplane, but turned my airplane sideways where I could open my window and observe them with a completely unobstructed view. When these objects were flying approximately straight and level, there were just a black, thin line, and when they flipped was the only time I could get a judgment as to their size.
Arnold's sightings didn't gain front-page status immediately. Stories about it appeared in newspapers a day or two later, usually on page 8 or 9, and then with a comment about strange objects in fast flight. It was, at that time, the story of an oddity. Arnold claimed later that he thought he had seen some sort of new jet aircraft, and he was a little concerned about breaking the security around it. The government had 3 official projects to investigate UFOs, and in 1969 they closed Project Blue Book and claimed they did not investigate UFOs any longer. This was not true. The Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, or ATIP, was a secret investigative effort funded by the United States government to study unidentified flying objects or unexplained aerial phenomena. The program was first made public on December 16th of 2017. The program began in 2007 with funding of $22 million over the 5 years until the available appropriations were ended in 2012. The program began in the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency. Although the official ATIP program has ended, a related group of interested professionals have extended the effort, founding a public benefit corporation and entertainment company named To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science. ATIP came to a broader public attention on the 16th of December 2017 in 3 news stories in the Washington Post, Politico, and the New York Times. Gun camera footage of a UFO known as the Tic Tac UFO came to light, and the pilot confirmed it was a UFO. At least 6 Super Hornet pilots made visual or instrument contact with the UFO on November 14, 2004. Later, under pressure, the government had to concede that it did indeed run the program, and that all the footage leaked or released was in fact genuine. Since then, a plethora of government officials, politicians, military personnel, and those who worked on the project have come forward. It's pretty clear the government takes UFOs seriously. What is not known is if the government will finally admit UFOs are alien and what measures are being taken to ensure our airspace is protected. Captain Max Clark, commanding officer of the USS Nimitz, has said it is important his ship and everybody on it is kept safe from UFOs. From my perspective, we have an obligation to make sure the airspace is clear, whether it's UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon, or UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles. This comes just weeks after the Office of Naval Intelligence revealed the existence of a classified, unreleased UFO video. The video was related to the notorious USS Nimitz Carrier Group 2004 encounter with a tic-tac-shaped UFO. The encounters remain a mystery, and the object's incredible speed and movements have led to speculation that it was extraterrestrial. Could it be we're getting closer to a complete disclosure that extraterrestrials are visiting Earth? Are we on the verge of a worldwide acknowledgement of the true nature of the flying craft? As more UFO encounters occur, eventually the truth will be told. When it does, that will be the greatest UFO encounter of all time.
So far into the future, technology is so advanced, infinitely ahead of what we can imagine, that they don't even look human now. But they are. We haven't been able to fully test and see if they are, but they are what I believe people. And they have found relics, at least in their time, of what they used to be, which is us. And the farther and farther they've gone, they've found a way to come back, and they are just studying what they used to be, the ancient structures, the ancient people, the ancient biology, which would be the reason why they look at animals, they look at people, they look at the plants, they look at the structures and everything, because they're coming back to see what they used to be. And we have no way of knowing how far or when, or even if it is the same people in a different planet, but I'm firmly believing it's us.
Then in 1947, the United States government would become mired in secrecy when an alien spacecraft crashed near Roswell, New Mexico. The Roswell incident seemed just to involve debris from a craft of some sort, as no main part of the craft could be found on the Brazel Ranch. This led to speculation that the main part of the craft had managed to travel on before coming to rest. Later, the second section of the saucer was found. It came down in an area west of Chiraco, New Mexico, known as the Plains of San Agustin, where witnesses discovered a strange metallic object and several dead bodies. The bodies and wreckage were sent to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base for study. Many speculate it remains there to this day.
Much like Roswell, the Valle de Elqui in Chile is also a hotspot for UFO activity. In 1998, residents of a nearby village witnessed a UFO hovering over a local hill. It shocked the entire population of 2,500. They saw a shiny metal object 15 meters across. It hovered, motionless, as the whole town came out to witness it. It remained there for 3 full days. Everybody from the town mayor to the police witnessed the event. The whole area was electrically blacked out, and all radio and TV broadcasts affected. Then it started to move upward slowly, but then suddenly turned and split in two and crashed. Local police were sent to the scene on horseback. They reported finding nothing, but still cordoned off the area. Over the next few hours and days, huge numbers of military vehicles and unmarked helicopters were seen in the area, and one man witnessed a large metallic object being lifted away by chopper. Most witnesses are convinced that whatever crashed in that remote hillside, it was big and the main segment carried away on a huge truck. The military have never given an explanation. However, here's what we do know. The military did not just investigate the local village and hill. They extended their search across a wide range and forced everyone away from the crash site for miles. All the local hotels reported a sudden surge in bookings from U.S. citizens claiming to be tourists. These were most certainly CIA and other security services. After the military operation, people who visited the hillside reported finding stones that were now the color of aluminum. There were several of the usual explanations given by the authorities. A weather balloon, atmospheric conditions. None of these make any sense given the sheer volume of witnesses, the hovering for 3 days, and the sudden breakup and crash. Huge numbers of military personnel and plain-clothed U.S. citizens would not have been drafted in for a weather balloon. Besides, such balloons require advanced written permission to be launched, and there are no records of any request. What is very interesting is the fact that 4 months prior to this event, another object had crashed just over 10 miles away at Cerro Tololo. Witnesses stated there was a deafening noise, a bright flash, and many homes had their windows smashed. So bright was the flash that it appeared to be daytime and was witnessed over 150 miles away. Suddenly, storms appeared, and there was general panic among the population. One local taxi driver said that he was often chased by strange flying lights, but on that particular night, both he and his passengers were scared out of their wits. The lights he often saw came out of nowhere, from behind hills and round bends. He said they seemed to be acting intelligently, not some kind of natural swamp gas. Again, the military arrived, and witnesses reported seeing huge trucks carrying things away.
In the early 1950s, astronaut Gordon Cooper was assigned to a jet fighter group in Germany. While stationed there, he remembers very vividly the week an entire formation of circular objects passed over the airbase on an almost daily routine. But that's not all. While a project manager at Edwards Air Force Base, just 3 years before entering America's space program, Cooper had assigned a team of photographers to an area of the vast dry lake beds near Edwards. The former astronaut disclosed that while the crew was deployed, they spotted a strange-looking craft above the lake bed, and they began filming it. Cooper says the object was very definitely hovering above the ground, and then it slowly came down and sat on the lake bed for a few minutes. During this time, the motion picture cameras were filming. There were varied estimates by the cameraman on what the actual size of the object was, but they all agreed that it was at least the size of a vehicle that would carry normal-sized people in it. Colonel Cooper was not fortunate enough to be outside at the time of this incredible encounter, but he did see the films as soon as they were rushed through the development process. It was a typical circular-shaped UFO, he recalls. Not too many people saw it because it took off at quite a sharp angle and just climbed straight on out of sight. Where are these films today? Why would Gordon Cooper, a respected and honorable American hero, make up such a story? According to him, UFOs were seen regularly at Edwards Air Force Base.
Whatever happened that night, I don't know. I wasn't there. But it was something that terrified my father till the day he died.
There's many times he'd be telling me the story and just get cracked up and just turn wide sheet and just quit and not say nothing else about it. He just wouldn't talk about it at all.
This story happened in Christian County, Kentucky, on a little farm outside of Kelly, just 8 miles north of the city of Hopkinsville.
Hopkinsville in Christian County in the mid-1950s was principally a Protestant community of blue-collar and professional workers, a community not real stoutly committed to change in those days. Keep in mind also that this event occurred in the midst of August, when it was hot as the hinges of Hades. And so people tended not to get terribly excited about things. When it was hot weather, they would get even hotter. There was a police officer at nearby Shady Oaks restaurant, maybe 3 miles from Kelly. And this police officer indicated that sometime just prior to the reported landing of the spacecraft at Kelly, that he saw a series, maybe 3 meteors streaking northeastwardly across the sky in the general directional pattern of Kelly. It was a Sunday night, August 21st, 1955. At about 7:30 p.m., Billy Taylor went out to the outdoor privy, and while out there, observed a spaceship hovering 40 or 50 feet above the ground, and observed it land in about a 40-foot ravine or gully behind the house. Of course, concerned about it, he came on back into the house and told the members of the Sutton family whom he was visiting about this event, and Billy's reputation was noted for being creative, to put it in a nice way, and so the family paid a little attention.
About 20 minutes later, Lucky looked out the window, and what he saw would haunt him for the rest of his life. Coming up towards the house from the gully were several creatures unlike anything he had ever seen before.
When members of the Sutton family first saw the creatures approaching the house, they described them as little human-like figures, 3 to 4 feet tall, with pointed ears. But the most prominent feature of their entire makeup was the large, round eyes that appeared not to blink.
A few minutes later, one of the alien creatures came right up to the window and looked in. Lucky Sutton grabbed his shotgun and fired through the window. The face disappeared. Lucky and Billy Ray, now armed as well, decided to go outside to find out what happened to the creature they'd shot. As Taylor stepped out onto the porch, a huge hand reached down from the overhang, grabbed him by the hair, and tried to pull him up. Taylor managed to get free, and both he and Lucky retreated into the house and loaded their guns with ammunition. Now the two men started firing at these little beings as if they were in the fight of their lives. But what happened when they fired was even more terrifying.
When the firing started, these little creatures were knocked off their feet or would do a somersault and bounce right up and float off.
Inside the house, there was absolute chaos. The women and children hid under the bed in terror, while Lucky and Billy Ray kept shooting at the advancing aliens through the walls and window screens of the house.
Stay there! Stay there!
The terrifying attack went on for hours. Each time Billy Ray or Lucky hit their mark, the creatures would react by floating away, as if they were surrounded by an invisible force field, and then they would crawl back towards the house. At around 11 p.m., about 3 hours after the battle started, there was a brief respite. Without wasting a moment, Billy Ray and Lucky loaded everyone into cars and drove to the nearest police station in Hopkinsville to get help.
When the investigating officers arrived, they made a thorough search of the house. They were joined soon thereafter by personnel from the sheriff's office and even some military personnel from nearby Fort Campbell. A thorough search was made of the house and the grounds surrounding the house, and never did they find anything in the way of evidence.
Other than bullet holes and the emotional state of the terrified family members, the investigating officers found no concrete evidence. Some reports suggest that police found a strange luminous stain in the grass where one of the creatures fell after being shot, but no one took a sample, and by morning there was no trace.
In 1939, Cordell Hull, Secretary of State for President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, decided to show his cousin a little surprise. Hull brought his cousin, the Reverend Turner Hamilton Holt, into a sub-basement of the U.S. Capitol building to show him something that would shake him to his soul. Hull consequently made his cousin swear to never reveal what he was about to see. Hull took Holt into a room in that basement that contained 4 large glass containers into which a child could easily fit. In each of the containers was a creature of horrendous visage. The tiny humanoid-like creatures were floating in some sort of chemical preservative. According to the Reverend Holt, Cordell Hull told him that this had to be kept secret to prevent widespread panic among the American public. Holt asked his family to wait until both he and cousin Cordell were both dead before revealing this information. And Holt's children did just that.
Somewhere deep in the Mojave Desert, a secret hidden base exists inside a mountain where extraterrestrials have resided for several decades. This astonishing revelation came from a retired defense intelligence officer who held a news conference in front of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. She described a meeting with 2 unnamed individuals who guided her through the mountain's tunnels to an alien base, where she encountered 2 aliens of different races. The aliens began communicating with her telepathically and even consented to her revealing their existence. Her assessment of the alien beings was that they present no danger and are peaceful creatures. She stated, "We have an ongoing communication, and I look forward to all of you developing one." Her goal is to orchestrate a meeting between the alien higher beings and a team comprised of unbiased scientists, journalists, a noted documentarian, and even an astronaut inside the mountain base. These first-hand witnesses will then be free to provide their data to the public and media for further scrutiny.
May 27, 1973, in Sao Paulo, Brazil, at 2 a.m., Jenny Lisboa was busy making wedding cakes early in the morning when her attention was drawn outdoors by her pet parakeet. When she looked out, she saw a luminous flying object approaching her property. The object circled her garden and hovered above the wall. She could see 3 identical-looking figures of small stature from the waist up through the transparent upper portion. Each one was directing a beam of light down as if searching for something. Then their beam struck the witness, paralyzing her. She called her neighbor, but the object departed. When her neighbor arrived, she found Ms. Lisboa's face was swollen and her eyes bloodshot. Her body was painful, particularly in the joints and especially in the knees. Her eyesight worsened after the experience to the point where she was forced to wear corrective lenses for the first time in her life. Also, her previous medical condition of hypertension seemed to have been improved to the degree where she was able to drop all previous antihypertensive medication.
In 1987, a terrifying event unfolded with 2 consecutive nights of UFO sightings. Green and white balls of light that formed into all types of shapes hovered directly above the Flushing Meadow Zoo, causing the animals to become greatly disturbed. On the morning following the second night of UFO sightings, the caretaker and other employees were horrified to discover every animal in the zoo were slaughtered by mutilation. They revealed that all of the animals were securely locked in their pens, with no sign of forced or keyed entry. But the corpses appeared as though they had been surgically autopsied or examined. Despite the mutilations, little or no blood was present. To avoid controversy, the zoo closed without explanation, and no trespassing signs were placed near the entrance. Park department personnel and police were summoned to remove the carcasses. Later, the zoo staff stated that the animal deaths and mutilations were eventually explained away as the work of vandals or ritualistic killers. However, it was determined that the perpetrators would have caused excessive noise while killing the animals and would have left a significant amount of blood and other evidence behind. None of this evidence was present. No alarms sounded off, and the park police and other employees working nearby heard nothing. The zoo employees had reasonable concerns that this event could happen again.
In August 1962, for example, there was an incident that made even the Boas case look tame. Unfortunately, on this occasion, the victim did not survive to tell the tale. Briefly, the facts are these. On the 19th of that month, 2 glowing red spheres the size of footballs are reported to have flown over the hut of a poor diamond prospector named Revelino Marfa de Salva. Later, 2 aliens, approximately 1.5 feet in height, entered the hut and peered at the family as they lay in bed. The next day, one of the man's sons was surprised to discover 2 strange balls outside the hut. One was entirely black, and the other black and white. When the father came out to look at them, they apparently rose up at him and enveloped him in a cloud of yellow smoke. He was never seen again. Shortly afterwards, the son was reported to have been taken into custody by the Brazilian army, some say as a means of silencing him. Phil Schneider, a former government geologist and engineer with over 17 years of experience in black projects, is one of the most important whistleblowers in modern history. He is a geologist, structural engineer, and metallurgist that's worked on building deep underground military bases. He spent more than 17 years with U.S. government black projects, carrying a level 3 security clearance at secret bases such as Area 51, S4, and Los Alamos. Schneider claimed there are 131 active underground bases in the United States, with approximately 1,477 worldwide. He says magnetolevitron trains connect all the bases within the continental U.S. in a vast subterranean transport system. According to Schneider, the U.S. government signed an agreement in 1954 with extraterrestrials, granting them the right to experiment on humans and cattle in exchange for technology. This agreement was known as the Grenada Treaty, and it is a well-documented event. The original terms for this treaty were that only a small number of humans would be abducted. They had to be returned to their original locations, and their memories had to be wiped. The aliens were supposed to submit a list of the individuals they were taking to Majestic 12, a government overseeing committee. However, after a few years of this, it became clear that the aliens were taking far more humans than they had originally bargained for, which spawned the origins of the alien-human conflict that persists to this day. He describes the alien agenda as the complete takeover of this planet, the killing off of a portion of the world's population by 2029. An alien takeover would mean the implementation of a one-world government, which is the direct opposite of constitutional law, and would be the end of freedom as we know it. Schneider claims some of the alien races here on Earth actually eat people and use the glandular secretions of animals and humans for mixtures of the vitamins for their food and can actually get high from our adrenaline. According to Schneider, there are more than 100,000 missing children totally unaccountable for from FBI archives in the U.S. alone. He believes that many of them are held captive underground and summarily done away with. In some cases, they are literally eaten. Schneider claims that there are 11 distinct races of aliens here on Earth, with only 2 of them being benevolent. He claims to be one of only 3 survivors of an alien-human war at the Dulles, New Mexico and Los Alamos underground bases, where 66 government agents and workers lost their lives in August of 1979. Schneider claims that all information dealing with aliens is kept well hidden from the public, and that the U.S. military has known about the alien presence for more than 85 years, going back as early as 1909. He asserts that more than $500 billion was being allocated annually to black projects dealing with these matters in 1995. According to Schneider, 28% of the U.S. gross national product was being spent exclusively on building underground bases. This black budget sidesteps Congress completely and is a treasonous violation of constitutional law and taxpayer money. Without a doubt, these budgets and projects continue today on a massive scale. Schneider gave a talk in 1995 where he made explosive claims about government cover-ups, black budget projects, UFOs, and government military collaboration with aliens in deep underground bases. Less than 6 months after giving his talk, he was found dead in his apartment with piano wire still wrapped around his neck in what appears to be a military-style execution. According to some sources, he had been brutally tortured repeatedly before being killed. The authorities dismissed the death as a suicide. If any part of Phil Schneider's story is true, then the invasion has already begun. Aliens now live among us on planet Earth, carefully sequestered away in secret bases underground, and control us with agreements from our own government. Have we been sold out by our own government? Does a treaty exist between alien greys and humans? Are we giving away our rights to an alien presence?